Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you and welcome to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The poet Sarah Coleridge once reflected that chill December brings the sleet, blazing fire and Christmas treat. You're most welcome on this first December Sunday to 2 hours of arts, culture, current affairs, politics and treats here on GB News. Well, there's talk of a Macbethian alliance between Wes Streeting and Angela Rayner to seize the Labour crown. Would they do any better than those that they wish to oust? My panel will speak out. Fallout from Rachel Reeves's budget continues, with some calling Labour the party of welfare, not work. Economist Catherine McBride will join me to explore that idea. Talks between the United States and Ukraine have been ongoing this week, whilst Russia has been accused of disregarding peace efforts with a series of attacks across Ukraine this weekend. Elliot Wilson will join me to discuss that. Egypt has issued a fresh call for Britain to hand back the renowned Rosetta Stone. A member of the Egyptian government claims that the artefact was illegally taken. Should it be returned to Egypt? Dr. Philip Kisley will opine. All of that and much more, but first your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Michael, thank you. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories at 11:01. Thousands of guaranteed jobs in construction and hospitality are to be offered to young people on benefits in the spring. It's part of an £800 million government plan to tackle youth unemployment, which includes funding for training and work experience. It comes amid a rise in so-called NEETs, that's 16 to 24-year-olds not in employment, education or training, and that number now stands at 940,000. The Work and Pensions Secretary Pat McFadden told us young people have been let down.
The last thing we want is young people living a life on benefits or not doing anything constructive. So we're coming forward with a package today which we call the Youth Guarantee. It's backed by £800 million of government investment, and that will offer training places to 300,000 or more of those young people. Young people have been neglected. They haven't been offered enough help in the past, and we want to put that right.
A man has been arrested after a number of people were attacked with a form of pepper spray at a multi-storey car park at Heathrow Airport. Armed officers were called to Terminal 3 at 8 o'clock this morning to reports of a number of people being assaulted. It's understood the incident was sparked by an argument between a group of people who know each other, and it's not being treated as terror-related. Those injured have been taken to hospital. Heathrow is warning passengers of delays as a result, and National Rail says there'll be disruption to services until around midday. The Prime Minister says his former deputy, Angela Rayner, will return to his cabinet. Miss Rayner resigned in September after she was found to have underpaid stamp duty on a seaside flat. In an interview with The Observer, Sir Keir Starmer said he missed her and that misogyny had played a part in the level of criticism she faced. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, though, argues Rayner's return should be on the condition that she pays back the £40,000 of property taxes that she avoided. David Lammy has been accused of misrepresenting figures about rape cases in an attempt to cut half of all jury trials. The Sunday Times reports the Justice Secretary has repeatedly suggested that 60% of victims are pulling out of cases because of delays in the court system. However, the true statistics show the vast majority of rapes reported are abandoned long before a charge is brought, due to factors such as policing delays. The number of victims withdrawing post-charge is around 8%. The Prime Minister has expressed concern over what will happen if Reform UK win the next election, claiming they will tear British communities apart. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage has launched a legal challenge over the government's decision to delay the mayoral elections in May. It comes after an announcement that more than 5 million people across the south and east of England will be denied a vote in their areas as a result. The government blames the delay on local authorities needing more time to merge as part of a devolution drive. You're up to date. Let's get back to Michael.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Just a brief update on that breaking news this morning. A man has been arrested on suspicion of assault after several people were attacked with, quotes, a form of pepper spray by a group of men at a multi-storey car park at Heathrow Airport Terminal 3, the Metropolitan Police has said. GB News national reporter Will Godley joins us now. Will, what is the latest, please?
Well, Michael, yeah, very disturbing scene coming out of Heathrow Airport this morning, of course, Britain's busiest airport. And this incident took place at the multi-storey car park at Terminal 3. I can bring you some pictures now of what the scene looked like there a little bit earlier on. This is showing emergency services there, police, fire service and also ambulance services there as well. Attending the scene earlier on, the police said they were called to incidents and a report of multiple people being assaulted outside Terminal 3 at 8:11 this morning. We'll bring you those pictures when we have it. The police saying, though, a number of people were sprayed. We have those pictures now there. Take a look at the scene there earlier on this morning when police were responding to this incident where multiple people were sprayed with what's believed to be a form of pepper spray by a group of men who have then left the scene. Armed police there, though, did arrest one man on suspicion of assault. At this moment, he remains in custody and police continuing their inquiries to trace further suspects involved in this incident. Regarding the people who are victims in this assault, London Ambulance Service took a number of people to hospital and that they remain there at the moment. It's not believed their injuries to be life-threatening or life-changing, but nonetheless remaining in hospital at the moment. Police also giving an update saying that they don't believe this incident to be terror-related. They've said in a statement at this stage We believe the incident involved a group of people known to each other, with an argument escalating and resulting in a number of people being injured, and they're not treating this incident as terrorism related. They've also said that there is still disruption in the area, on the train lines and also on the roads. Heathrow Airport have said anyone with flights today should check with the airline whether their flights are still going ahead. But at the moment, one person arrested as police continue their inquiries after the summons at Heathrow Airport this morning.
Thank you very much. We'll keep you up to date on that story. Now, Wes Streeting wants to be Prime Minister, it is widely said, but he doesn't have the support of the Labour left. He might do better in a party election if he were in an alliance with Angela Rayner, and he could repay her by making her Deputy Prime Minister again. Now, if this regicide were to bring forth new Labour leaders, would Labour fare any better? Joining me to answer this question is my panel, the Assistant Editor of Conservative Home, Tally Fraser, and the former Labour Party Chair, Baroness Hayter. Diane, good to see you both.
Good morning.
Diane, I'm rather confused by this. I mean, Angela Rayner surely could have a jolly good shot at this for herself. Why should she want to be in an alliance with Wes Streeting? Why would she want to see a figure from the right of the Labour Party assuming the leadership?
Well, you may be confused, but I'm even more confused because there isn't a vacancy. We're 17 months into a 60-month government. There isn't a vacancy. We're not going to have an election. And, by the way, it's the electorate that selects which party is going to be in government and takes a judgment at that point. So I just think all these people should actually go back to their dispatch boxes, do some work and do what's really important, which is get on with it. We're not there. There isn't a vacancy. And you're almost as old as I am. And you'll remember Harold Wilson. No, you won't. You're a bit too young.
No, I do remember.
You do remember Harold Wilson.
I know what's going on.
I know what's going on. I'm going on.
It was a very, very good joke.
It was, but it was serious. And, you know, I was just trying to remember which leaders of the Labour Party haven't had this sort of stuff going on. I think John Smith is the only one for which there were no rumours that someone else
Well,
could
there
replace
you allude to a difference between the political parties because, of course, the Conservatives in office get rid of their leaders quite regularly. Labour does not do so very often.
That's right.
Now, this talk about a leadership change will not go away, Diane. It's all very well you lecturing people that they should go back to their dispatch boxes. You might well be right, but the talk is not going away. It's subsided for a couple of weeks, but it's here again. We know that as we get towards the May election, the tempo is simply going to rise. I mean, lots of people actually are taking it for granted that Keir Starmer will not serve out the Parliament.
Well, I wouldn't take that for granted. I remember when he was Leader of the Opposition, people thought he would not take us into the election, and there were talks after the Hartlepool by-election that he wouldn't stay. He didn't just stay, but he won a thumping majority, and I think people underestimate him at their cost. So you may be right that there are certain people, we were discussing it earlier, whose tongues I would happily cut off. But as I say, there isn't a vacancy, and I think that the talk can only be harmful to us.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure it's harmful to Labour. But, I mean, the facts of life are that leaders of parties who are ahead in the polls survive, and those who fall behind in the polls are in danger. I mean, as I recall, Tony Blair, during his premiership, was almost always 10 points ahead of the Conservatives in the polls. Consequently, he was in no serious danger until the end.
But he was in danger. Remember, there were plots to get rid of him. There were people gathering round, and there was people trying to move him.
All right. Well, let's just say that his position was a great deal better than Keir Starmer's is, because in one poll recently, Labour was on 14%. It's polling about half of what Reform is polling. The Prime Minister is reacting already, saying today that Angela Rayner might come back as Deputy Prime Minister, which is a very obvious gambit because the only card Wes Streeting has to play is the promise of making a Deputy Prime Minister again. If the Prime Minister's already done that, then that particular fox is shot down.
Well, he said before he would like to see her back, so I don't think that's quite as much news as perhaps it looks like. And I think there's already a Deputy Prime Minister there at the moment anyway. So I don't think that it is that much news. He's always said, and they were a very good partnership. I think we have to remember how much strength that gave to the Labour Party to have not just a woman and a man at the top of the party, but actually from different backgrounds, from a different approach, from a different personality. It was a very good team. So I can understand why any of us would like to see that sort of team at the top of our party.
Tally Fraser, sorry to keep you waiting. What do you make of it? Why will these rumours not go away? Why can't they put the lid on this?
I mean, part of the reason the rumours won't go away is because Number 10 almost gave credence to the rumours by briefing out to various journalists from The Times and The Guardian about how if there were any leadership battle, Starmer would try and fight it out.
You're referring to what, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
So, this is probably about a month ago now. And it put and they named Wes Streeting specifically, and it looked like he'd be put in a bit of a bind, but he's come out of those briefings only looking stronger, really. And we talk about Angela Rayner perhaps needing to be on his ticket for him to succeed with the membership. But the Times were reporting on some polling that had Wes Streeting coming second with Labour members anyway, only behind Ed Miliband, who has ruled himself out. So there is a world in which Wes Streeting, a very strong media performer, could go on to get leadership without needing Rayner. But right now, it's almost like a battle for who can win over Rayner once more. Can Wes get her, or can Keir get her back?
What do you think we gain with Wes Streeting? I want to speak personally here. I've been quite disappointed by him. I saw him as a potential reformer. I thought he might grip the National Health Service. But all I've seen since he became Health Secretary is that the Health Service have much more money. The pay rises are being paid in full. There's no reform to speak of whatsoever. Why do people think that Wes would be better? I mean, you've said he's a good media performer, but don't they need a bit more than that?
No, I would completely agree with you, to be honest. I think there were hopes for him in that role and the idea that only Labour can reform the NHS. And I think that hasn't happened, and instead he's ended up capitulating on lots of things where he originally seemed strong. Instead, what you do have is a relatively strong media performer who perhaps might be able to set out what a Labour vision is, where Keir Starmer doesn't really seem able to. He can't really set out what the party is for and ends up sort of relying on focus groups and polling to try and dictate where the party will go.
And to the extent that any of this is, as it were, rational, do you think that is what Labour people are looking for? They're looking for policies that aren't very different, but a story that's better told?
I think potentially. I think what the state of the party is right now is realising that there aren't necessarily big political arguments to be had, that perhaps they're on a relatively similar wavelength across the PLP, but knowing that their Prime Minister is a dud, potentially, and that slow recognition that actually maybe Keir Starmer is not working out. And I don't think it's going to be before May, but what comes after May in the local elections, maybe that's the time to get someone who can articulate some sort of vision.
It's an extraordinary situation, Diane, to have a senior member of the Cabinet being touted as the future leader in such a public way, in such an evident way, with so many stories that won't go away. I mean, that in itself is a source of terrific instability.
And, you know, it happened when Gordon Brown was wanting to be leader. We had it at that position. I mean, I think where I disagree is that actually what Keir is doing as Prime Minister has been stunning. I mean, you think of what he's done internationally and the lead he's given on Ukraine. We should not underestimate. I mean, it's been very daunting for him to have to do so much internationally, because I know he's criticised for that.
He seems to enjoy it.
From my experience, people when they criticise at home like to get into foreign policy.
That's not why he...
on a global stage.
Absolutely.
I've been there myself.
I know, but that's not why he got into Ukraine. That's not why he pulled together the coalition of the willing. That's not why he's had to try and take on Trump. He seriously believes, as I think I'm sure the three of us here do, in the importance of the security of Europe and of seeing off Putin, and that has involved a lot of discussions. He was thrown into that right from the beginning. I mean, I think almost his first week in office he had to fly off to NATO. So trying to think that he has not been a successful Prime Minister, I think is stunningly wrong. And all the other stuff we've done on, whether it's things that are important to people but may not seem big politics, like potholes, or whether it's breakfast clubs, or whether it is getting rid of NHS England and bringing that together into the NHS. There are lots of stuff going on, and we shouldn't underestimate how much he's achieving.
I suspect the viewers like pundits to put their money somewhere. Tally, will Keir Starmer be Prime Minister at the end of 2026?
If I had to put my money on, I'll go with no.
Yes.
I don't think so.
And Diane, since you're being forced to put your money on, what would you go with?
And I'm such a gambler. What are the odds? I would go for yes.
That he'll still be Prime Minister, yes. I had a feeling you might say
We'll
that.
have to come back round to it in the year.
But Tally's opinion on that is very interesting. Thank you very much, panel. Tally Fraser and Baroness Diane Hayter. They'll return at noon to discuss the proper way to handle transgenderism. Time for the Great British Giveaway now, and your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, an extraordinary £85,000. Here are the details.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Fallout from Rachel Reeves' budget continues. Economist Catherine McBride will join me next to explore whether Labour is now the party of welfare, not work. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration
to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The budget delivered by Rachel Reeves continues to have its impacts. Yesterday, yesterday was Small Business Saturday, and the group called UK Hospitality warned that rates for businesses are going to rise by more than £300 million over the next 3 years. Now, aside from the budget's consequences for small enterprises, Labour is facing sustained criticism as being the party of welfare, not work. And joining me now is the economist Catherine McBride. Welcome back to this programme, GB News. Very nice to see you. There are various ways of thinking about this, and people have been looking at examples. So, for example, a family with 3 children, no adults in work, receiving PIP on universal credit, might be receiving something like £46,000 a year, and were the adults going to work, they would need to earn more than £60,000 to make it worth their while to move off benefit. These are the sorts of examples that people are bringing up. And they are extraordinary, aren't they? Because £60,000 is a pretty high level of income, and lots of people would make the rational choice that they're better off on benefits.
Well, they are, because benefits don't pay tax. So, effectively, that is why you have to earn so much more, because of the amount the government's taking in tax. If we, say, introduce taxes on benefits, you might find people would make a different decision. You're absolutely right. People are making a rational choice that they are better off on benefits if they can play the various games, because there is a cap on benefits which was introduced, I'm pretty sure, by Ian Duncan Smith. He brought the welfare bill down by about 30%. But there is now a way around it, which is via the PIP being some way incapacitated, allows you to get more and more money. And what is terrifying is if you look at the actual accounts, just that one policy is due to increase the cost of benefits by $2.3 billion next year and by $3.2 billion in 5 years' time. So that is massive. They are doing some sensible things to other bits of welfare. They do have, fraud and error. Twice, 3 times they're going to look into benefit fraud. But that's going to save a tiny proportion of the amount they're spending on the lifting the 2-child benefit cap, because it is just for people on benefits. People don't seem to understand that if you had 3 or 4 children and you were not on benefits, well, there's no cap, except that if you earn more than a certain amount, they take your child benefit payments away.
Yes, at a certain level of income,
yes.
You lose them again.
So, but this is the cap on people on universal credit are only getting payments for 2 children. So it's complicated for people who don't play the welfare game, where people who do understand how all of these things work.
And they're guided by the internet. There are all sorts of apps out there to help them. Now, to look at another thing, I think we've got now 6 million people who are on out-of-work benefits, and of them, 5 million have no need to be looking for work. That unemployment benefit, job seekers allowance, which I think I introduced, these used to tie the benefit very closely to people seeking work. And there were sanctions, and there was encouragement, there was pressure for people to look for jobs. But 5 million people now are in a situation where they're not under any pressure to look for work. They can still receive their benefits.
I'm not even sure they have to go and sign on anymore. Once upon a time, you had to appear in person every week or every 2 weeks to be unemployed in the UK. Now, apparently, you can live outside the UK and still get your benefits, which I find quite incredible because everything is still done online.
I believe in this point very strongly. But I was the junior Minister for Social Security in the late 1980s. And then it was still the case that people went to the local office in order to get their benefit. Sitting on the other side of the glass was a benefit officer who was very much from the same community and probably the same sort of person as the person on the other side of the glass who was making a claim. And therefore, you know, even in the sort of steely look of the benefit officer, there was a question: why should my pay be deducted so that I can give benefit to you? So there was, you know, there was a personal pressure there. I think none of that now exists at all.
Yeah, and also he would have known what local jobs are available,
Indeed.
what this man could do. And maybe we introduce a bonus system where the number of people you get back into work, the benefits officer gets some compensation for that. Because we've got to both incentivise the people handing out the benefits to stop doing that and to be much tougher and work out if this man is really disabled or if he's just got tennis elbow, which apparently is enough to get you a mobility car, which I find extraordinary. Or depression, which I think actually should exclude you. If you're serious depressive, you shouldn't be driving any kind of vehicle or operating machinery of any level. You know, the last 4 big plane crashes we've had, the conclusion was that the pilot was depressed. You know, so the idea that we're handing out depressed people cars rather than making them take the bus or the tube or the train or whatever is kind of extraordinary.
You said that the government was doing some good things with welfare, trying to constrain the budget. You also mentioned, you know, one thing that had done that had obviously opened up the budget. Just looking at the budget that we've just had, do you think this accusation that Labour is now the party of welfare rather than work is justified?
The things they are doing to encourage work and the young people's programme, which was just mentioned on the news, I think is excellent. And I have discussed that in the last couple of weeks. So the government will pay people to work. And I know this has been introduced in one of the council areas. I'm going to say Haringey, but don't hold me to that. But we should be looking at that more. We should be thinking, because it doesn't come in till you've been unemployed for 18 months. And
so what are they doing? They're paying the employer to take them on,
to take them on. So the government sort of takes the risk. But you're hoping that the employer will take it seriously and make that person turn up on time. And because if you don't have the incentives to do so, there may be a lot of employers who decide that the government's paying this guy's bill. We don't care if he's late or if he leaves early or if he's doing nothing while he's here because he's not my problem. So I think that you do have to hope that people who do that will use it properly.
I'm glad that you said that, for balance. You're recognising things that the government are doing. But may I bring you back to my question? Do you think it's fair, on the basis of Rachel Reeves's budget, to say that this was... Let's make it slightly more particular, that this at least was a budget for welfare, not work. In other words, that welfare benefits were going up and they were being paid for by workers in their taxes, many of those workers having very little money, quite low incomes.
Well, yes, and the figures are here in front of me to prove that. Just by fixing the thresholds for tax, that is going to bring in up to 12.4 billion in the 5 years at the end of the budget period.
Right.
So the idea that...
And that includes low-paid people coming into tax for the first time, for example.
Well, exactly. When you give them more money, a greater proportion of their income is being taxed and the tax-free threshold becomes a smaller and smaller proportion. So we did see in the last figures, say September 2025, we raised £7 billion more than September 2024. And that was almost all in PAYE taxes and national insurance.
I'm going to stop you there, if I may.
Oh, OK, yeah.
Thank you very,
Sorry.
thank you very
when
much.
I start the figures, everyone...
No. But I think we've got a very good flavour of it all, and I'd love you to come back another day.
OK.
Thank you very much indeed, Catherine McBride. Coming up, talks between the United States and Ukraine have been going on this week. So, of course, have Russian attacks against Ukraine. Elliot Wilson will join me next. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Do have those raincoats on hand if you do plan on stepping outside today. Low pressure is increasingly in charge once again, and it's pushing all weather fronts northeastwards across the UK as we head throughout the day. These have already been providing some outbreaks of rain, generally fairly light and intermittent across parts of England and Wales. The heaviest pulses are likely to be for Northern Ireland initially, and those eventually spreading into central and southern Scotland. There is a rain warning in force today for Northern Ireland, so some minor disruption is possible and quite difficult travelling conditions around at times. As that rain band continues to sweep across mainland Scotland, it's going to be a pretty soggy end to the day here. The Northern Isles managing to hold off until a little later on in the evening, but underneath that persistent cloud and rain, it is going to feel quite cool, if not locally chilly. But behind that, we are starting to filter in some slightly milder air, so where skies begin to brighten or clear up later on in the day, we could see highs around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius. It is, though, still going to be breezy across much of England and Wales, and that will temper the feel of things a touch. Our rain band then heading up towards Orkney and Shetland later on this evening, but we've got another wave of showers that will push their way in from the west. These could be quite squally and heavy, but also bring some hail and thunderstorms as well. Quite a mild night overall, some areas staying up in double-digit figures, a little chillier where we see skies clear across north-eastern Scotland, but that rain band will push its way north-eastwards again into the start of Monday morning. There will be some sunnier spells around on Monday in general, particularly across parts of England and Wales, but those showers will continue out towards the north and the west, and the cloud will eventually push into central southern areas of England and Wales a little later on in the day. Temperatures around 8 to 14 degrees Celsius. Do be aware, though, that we will return to very wet and windy conditions Monday night into Tuesday with our next area of low pressure that arrives, and that could bring further disruption, so do stay up to date.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be in London tomorrow to meet Sir Keir Starmer, along with leaders from France and Germany, as discussions continue to end the war. This week, a Ukrainian delegation has been in Florida, and a United States delegation met with President Putin. A Kremlin spokesman described their talks as constructive, even though parts of the peace plan remain unacceptable to Russia. With me now is the contributing editor of Defence on the Brink, Elliot Wilson. Elliot, very good to see you back on this programme. Yes. I heard a German commentator this morning saying the coalition of the willing, what's it willing to do? And I think that is now quite an important question. As the Americans make clearer and clearer that they're going to be distancing themselves from Europe, not only over Ukraine, but in other ways as well, what is it that the coalition of the willing has been able to do, and what do you think it is now willing to do?
I think, Sir Keir Starmer and President Macron, who've been the leading figures in this, have talked a very good game about them being, willing to commit troops if necessary, to do everything they can to secure some settlement once it's reached. I think there are two problems with their approach. I admire the optimism, but I think the first problem is that there is no settlement, and that, as far as I can see, there's no prospect of a settlement because Vladimir Putin isn't particularly interested in coming to terms with anything like what's on the table. And the other problem is that consistently there's an underlying assumption that the coalition of the willing will rely on certain American assets, like intelligence, reconnaissance, satellite information, plus things like, air-to-air refueling, heavy lift. And all of these are things which the Americans have said they're not interested in providing. There is a kind of underlying logistics picture.
That is extraordinary. Let me just understand the scenario that you're talking about there. It doesn't seem that there's any possibility of coalition of the willing troops going into Ukraine after the settlement. I mean, Russia's going to absolutely veto that. Yep. So we're talking about the Ukrainians, without any foreign troops on their soil, trying to maintain the peace, trying to deter Putin from coming in. And you're saying that in that scenario, you don't think the Americans will supply basically what they need to do the job.
I don't think they'd be interested in providing this kind of security backup, which has been talked about, because what President Trump has said very strongly is that, you know, he will think about security guarantees once there's a peace settlement in place. But there's no way really that the Ukrainians can accept a peace settlement without those security guarantees. I mean, the underlying problem is that Ukraine, even to contemplate any kind of arrangement with Russia, would need to know that there were ways in which Russia would be deterred from doing exactly the same that it did in February 2022 again. You know, coming back for more and having another go once they've recovered from some of their losses. So I think it's very difficult to see what real role the coalition of the willing could provide, and particularly from our side, when we are so badly stretched that we're already, you know, missing NATO commitments in various places, that we have so little stretch in the armed forces.
What about the redeployment of sequestered Russian assets? Does that play an important part? I mean, the figures are quite large.
They are quite large. You know, we're talking, you know, many, many billions of euros. I think it's important for two reasons. It's important, firstly, because the Ukrainians are running out of money. And there is going to be a serious financial crisis for them in terms of paying for their defence, probably in the spring next year. I think the other important factor is what it says to Russia, which is that there is still a fundamental lack of unity among European nations about how to approach questions like sequestration of assets, because clearly, you know, countries like Hungary are not really interested in imposing this kind of punishment on Russia. The Belgians have been very worried about the sort of legal ramifications. And if Europe isn't speaking with one voice, then that's very obvious to Vladimir Putin, and he will draw the obvious conclusions from that he's in a stronger position.
Yeah. What is Zelensky's position now? What is he playing for? All these talks going on at the moment. What is the best game he can play?
I think what Zelensky's understood very shrewdly is that he needs to make himself appear as willing as possible to the Americans to reach some kind of peace settlement. And clearly, you know, Ukraine has had terrible, terrible losses and is currently suffering losses. You know, there were very heavy drone attacks last night. Their infrastructure's suffered a great deal. But at the same time, you know, Vladimir Putin is saying that he's not going to not only not withdraw from the Donbass, but he wants more of Ukrainian territory than he currently occupies. And he said, I think it was last week, that he would fight to the last Ukrainian if necessary.
Yes.
So it's difficult to see how much that Zelensky can really bear. Clearly, he has difficulty in he can't accept the de jure, you know, handover of territory to Russia, because that's against Ukraine's constitution. But even letting, you know, Russia settle it's 20% of Ukraine's territory would be very difficult to sell to the Ukrainian people unless they're simply worn out.
I mean, Putin, it seems to me, has been very successful in moving the starting line. If we were holding this conversation a year or 2 years ago, we would not at all have taken it for granted that Ukraine was going to have to give up the territory that's been conquered by Russia. But that now does seem like a given. And, you know, what's now being discussed is whether they should give up more, which, well, I mean, the whole thing seems monstrous to us, but that seems particularly monstrous. But Putin has moved the starting line, hasn't he?
He has. He's played a very shrewd game, and he's effectively presented what would be his maximal demands as almost the kind of starting point for negotiations. I think it hasn't helped that Donald Trump, for whatever reason, has approached this as a kind of, value-neutral situation where you have two competing parties and you try to reach compromise between them. He doesn't accept any kind of moral view of it, which is that, Russia invaded its sovereign neighbour and has carried out atrocities, war crimes, crimes against humanity on an appalling scale. So Donald Trump wants to make a deal, which is what he always talks about, and that requires sort of, give and take. And that's not always how conflicts end. It is sometimes. And there is going to be, it may well be that there is some deeply unsatisfactory end to the conflict, which is at least a cessation of violence. But it's looking like, as you say, it'll be much less satisfactory than we might have thought in 2023 or 2024.
Talking about European unity, I mean, Sir Keir Starmer is being praised. Diane Hayter was here a moment ago praising Keir Starmer for his role in Ukraine. But actually, I mean, other European countries have moved much further to modify their economies so that they can spend more on defence. Of course, those in the front line, like Poland and Estonia and Latvia, have done so. But even Germany has gone through a big change in its spending patterns. And I don't know what's going to happen at tomorrow's meeting, But isn't Germany now in a position to be quite critical of France and Britain for not having moved further in things that really matter?
I think Germany has come a long way. I mean, obviously, once they lifted the debt brake at the beginning of the year, they're now talking about spending hundreds of billions of euros on rearmament of the Bundeswehr. They're also now, I think, the biggest European contributor to Ukraine in terms of assistance. And so they can look to other countries and say, well, we've come this distance, you seem hardly to have moved at all. The problem in France, of course, is that they have an ongoing political crisis and can't even agree a budget. I mean, they have a sort of proposed defence budget of hundreds of billions of euros, but they can't get anything through the National Assembly. So they're sort of frozen out at the moment, and Macron is largely posturing. But I think we are starting to, from having a position where we'd suddenly upped to, we're going to spend more on defence, we've been passed quite considerably by a lot of other countries. And we're now looking at a little bit laggardly, I think.
And can I say what I always say when we discuss this subject? It doesn't really matter what you spend, it's whether you spend it effectively. Defence efficacy is what we need to measure, not defence spending. Thank you very much, Elliot Wilson. Coming up, Egypt has issued a fresh call for Britain to hand back the renowned Rosetta Stone. This is Sunday with Mike Portillo, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's still pretty unsettled in the eastern Mediterranean over the next few days. There will be some heavy showers and thunderstorms around too. But across Iberia and actually most of the Canary Islands and Madeira, it's largely fine, and there'll be plenty of sunshine on Monday. Just a few showers for northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal. Sunny for most of Italy too, but we run into more in the way of showers and stronger winds pushing down across parts of Greece and into Turkey. But overall, over the next few days, there's lots of sunshine to be enjoyed, and it will feel fairly warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The Rosetta Stone displays a decree that was written in 196 BC in 3 languages: hieroglyphic, Demotic, and ancient Greek. Its discovery and interpretation allowed us to understand Egyptian hieroglyphs. It was discovered by French invaders in 1799, and it passed to the British at the Ottoman capitulation of Alexandria in 1801. And since then, it's been at the British Museum, which has affirmed that the acquisition was legal since an Ottoman admiral signed Egypt's surrender to British forces. Now, however, the Secretary-General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mohammed Ismail Khalid, has said that he would love it if Britain handed over the historic stone slab. Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Dr. Philip Kisserly, joins me now. Hello, Philip. Welcome to GB News. Welcome to the programme. Let's for a moment dwell on the beauty and importance of the object. Do you want to give a little panegyric on it?
Hi. First of all, Michael, it's great to see you, or at least listen to you. Yes, it's a remarkable piece of history, mainly because, well, I suppose because of its beauty, the hieroglyphs, but also because of its utility as well. So it really was, for modern Europeans at the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century, this amazing portal into the ancient world. And there's such a kind of romantic element to it. So it's incredibly important in that respect. It's also, I think, Michael, important for us in the sense that it's been in this country for, 2 centuries now. So it's very much part of our culture. It's very much part of who we are in a way, because the British Empire, the great conservers, the great curators of history, if you like, brought it here to be saved in a way. And you could argue that probably if it didn't find its way here, it would have been lost or destroyed. And in many respects, Michael, it's very much like the Elgin marbles in that way.
So it was an extraordinary piece of luck, wasn't it, that a stone was found in which the same thing had been written in 3 languages. Therefore, if you could understand one of those languages, you had a good chance of understanding one or other of the other 2 that were there. So that's how we got our understanding of hieroglyphs. Now, what you've been saying about the conservation of this remarkable piece in Britain, in the British Museum, that's very important historically. Is it a justification for hanging on to it today?
Yes, I think it is, because I think this is a vexatious claim, Michael. And if we're thinking about the Rosetta Stone, then I think we have to think about the broader context as well. I've already mentioned the Elgin marbles, and there's a similar idea there. You talked about the capitulation of Alexandria. It was a completely legal exchange. It's almost like, I suppose, if you bought my house and then I demanded it back because it had risen in price, or I gave you a Christmas present and then you demanded it back, and then I demanded it back. It's that kind of silliness, really. I think it comes from this post-colonialist intellectual movement, but also just kind of pure greed as well, in a way. It should be here. It was completely legal, and I, for one, am glad that it is, because, as I said before, it is part of this conservation. It's part of history. And if we wouldn't have taken it completely legally, then I think it would have disappeared completely.
Do you have a sort of broad ethical principle that we could apply here? I mean, it seems to me that there's a strong argument for objects being close to the place where they were made or where they were located. And there's also another argument for having global museums where collections from different parts of the world are brought together so that scholars and indeed tourists and visitors can understand the connections between different civilizations without having to travel to each of those places. What's your sort of broad ethical principle on this, do you think?
I think really my view on this is that you cannot audit history and you cannot change the rules. I think I'd laid it out pretty much as it was before. It was a completely legal exchange at the beginning of the 19th century. So you wouldn't then override that for generations long gone who have nothing to do with it, you could argue. It's here in the British Museum, and I think it should stay there. And I'm thinking about other things as well. Okay, I'm thinking about reparations for slavery, for example. You know, this idea that, 19 trillion should be spent on reparations for people from this country, which is patently absurd because the Europeans were the first people to morally object to slavery, and of course Britain abolished slavery. So there's something here which is the same thing. There's no rhyme or reason for Egypt taking it back. There's no legal argument, and there is no moral argument, really, I think.
Philip?
Hello?
Philip, that's very, very clear, and I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for coming on Sunday with Michael Portillo. Dr. Philip Kisley. Now, that concludes the first hour of Sunday with Michael Portillo, but please do rejoin me at noon. The panel will be back. They're going to discuss the proper way to handle transgenderism. Paddington, the musical, has hit the West End. Is it a hit? Stefan Kyriazis will bring us his review of that and other entertainment. Graffiti artist Endless has unveiled a new mural. It's starring the Hollywood actor Luke Evans with the bold slogan, "Creativity Matters." Endless will join me in the studio, appearing on television for the first time without his usual muffler disguise. 4 countries have boycotted the Eurovision Song Contest after Israel was cleared to continue in the competition. Has politics now ruined Eurovision? Expert on the contest, Dr. Paul Jordan, will join me. So all of that afternoon. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, and you can find it only on GB News. See you in a moment.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Do have those raincoats on hand if you do plan on stepping outside today. Low pressure is increasingly in charge once again, and it's pushing weather fronts northeastwards across the UK as we head throughout the day. These have already been providing some outbreaks of rain, generally fairly light and intermittent across parts of England and Wales. The heaviest pulses are likely to be for Northern Ireland initially, and those eventually spreading into central and southern Scotland. There is a rain warning in force today for Northern Ireland, so some minor disruption is possible and quite difficult travelling conditions around at times. As that rain band continues to sweep across mainland Scotland, it's going to be a pretty soggy end to the day here. The Northern Isles managing to hold off until a little later on in the evening, but underneath that persistent cloud and rain, it is going to feel quite cool, if not locally chilly. But behind that, we are starting to filter in some slightly milder air, so where skies begin to brighten or clear up later on in the day, we could see highs around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius. It is, though, still going to be breezy across much of England and Wales, and that will temper the feel of things a touch. Our rain band then heading up towards Orkney and Shetlands later on this evening, but we've got another wave of showers that will push their way in from the west. These could be quite squally and heavy, but also bring some hail and thunderstorms as well. Quite a mild night overall, some areas staying up in double-digit figures. A little chillier where we see skies clear across northeastern Scotland, but that rain band will push its way northeastwards again into the start of Monday morning. There will be some sunnier spells around on Monday in general, particularly across parts of England and Wales, but those showers will continue out towards the north and the west, and the cloud will eventually push into central southern areas of England and Wales a little later on in the day. Temperatures around 8 to 14 degrees Celsius. Do be aware, though, that we will return to very wet and windy conditions Monday night into Tuesday with our next area of low pressure that arrives, and that could bring further disruption, so do stay up to date.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
May I be amongst the first to wish you good afternoon. William Shakespeare lamented old December's bareness everywhere. Well, not here. Our studio is dressed for Christmas and your presenter is fully clothed and ready to discuss music, theatre and art. Baroness Faulkner of Margravine, the outgoing chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, says that Labour has abandoned women on subjects like transgender rights and rape gangs. How should the government handle such delicate topics without abandoning women? My panel will have its views. Paddington the musical has hit the West End. Is it a hit? Stefan Kyriazis will bring us his review of that and more, including a hip-hop version of Charles Dickens's Christmas Carol. Graffiti artist Endless has unveiled a new mural starring Hollywood actor Luke Evans, with the bold slogan, "Creativity Matters." Endless will join me in the studio, appearing on television for the first time without his muffler. 4 countries have boycotted the Eurovision Song Contest after a vote gave Israel the right to continue to take part in the competition. Has politics officially now ruined Eurovision? Expert on the contest, Dr. Paul Jordan, will join me. All of that ahead, but that's after your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Michael, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories at 12:01. A man has been arrested after a number of people were attacked with a form of pepper spray at a multi-storey car park at Heathrow Airport. Armed officers were called to Terminal 3 at 8 o'clock this morning to report to a number of people being assaulted. And in the last few moments, the London Ambulance Service says 21 people were injured in that incident. 5 of them were taken to hospital with injuries not expected to be life-threatening. Heathrow is warning passengers of delays as a result, and National Rail says there'll be disruption to services until around midday. Thousands of guaranteed jobs in construction and hospitality are to be offered to young people on benefits in the spring. It's part of an £800 million government plan to tackle youth unemployment, which includes funding for training and work experience. There are almost 1 million young people not in employment, education or training, and the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, told us they've been let down.
The last thing we want is young people living a life on benefits or not doing anything constructive. So we're coming forward with a package today which we call the Youth Guarantee. It's backed by £800 million of government investment, and that will offer training places to 300,000 or more of those young people. Young people have been neglected. They haven't been offered enough help in the past, and we want to put that right.
The Prime Minister says his former deputy, Angela Rayner, will return to his cabinet. Miss Rayner resigned in September after she was found to have underpaid stamp duty on a seaside flat. In an interview with The Observer, Sir Keir Starmer said he missed her and that misogyny had played a part in the level of criticism she faced. But the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, argues Rayner's return should be on the condition that she pays back the £40,000 of property taxes that she avoided. In that same interview, the Prime Minister expressed concern over what will happen if Reform UK win the next election, claiming they will tear British communities apart. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage has launched a legal challenge over the government's decision to delay the mayoral elections in May. It comes after an announcement that more than 5 million people across the south and east of England will be denied a vote in their areas as a result. The government blames the delay on local authorities needing more time to merge as part of a devolution drive. In the last hour, President Donald Trump's team says a deal to end the war between Russia and Ukraine is really close and that it depends on resolving just 2 major issues, but the Kremlin is demanding radical changes to the US proposals. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president says he had a very constructive phone call with the US envoy, Steve Witkoff. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is preparing to meet Sir Keir Starmer and the leaders of France and Germany in Downing Street tomorrow. More than 20 people have been killed in a fire at a nightclub in the Indian state of Goa. Tourists are among the dead. India's Prime Minister says the victims and their families will be offered compensation. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the fire. And more than half a month's rainfall could fall within a 24-hour period in some parts of the UK this week, with difficult travel conditions expected. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning from 6 p.m. tomorrow until Tuesday evening across parts of the southwest England and Wales. And more than a dozen flood warnings are also in place. Dartmoor and South Wales could be worst hit, with up to 80 millimetres of rain expected. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at 12:30.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you very much, Bethany Elsie. Baroness Faulkner of Margravine has criticised the government and the Labour Party. Having left her top position at the Equality and Human Rights Commission, she accuses Labour of abandoning women. The government is slow to implement the Supreme Court judgment that a person's gender is that of his or her birth. Labour at first resisted an inquiry into official responses to the plight of young women who were raped by gangs in large numbers, and now the inquiry is stalled. How should a government handle the competing claims of women and those women who say they have become men? That is today's ethical conundrum for my panel. Assistant Editor of the Conservative Home, Tally Fraser, and former Labour Party Chair Baroness Hayter rejoin me. Tally, why do you think Lady Faulkner made this outburst?
I think she's well within her right to, because she's fed up, it seems. I mean, this guidance has been sitting for 3 months, and yet there's still no date for it to be published. There's still no.
This is guidance that she produced.
This is guidance that she produced with the EHRC it's a very practical guidance about how spaces should be defined for different biological sexes. And it's been sitting for 3 months. It's not published. There's no sign of it being published. And I think she's well within her right to say, where is it? Why isn't anything being done about it? Because fundamentally, she's produced this guidance, but the law is still the same. And right now, lots of people and lots of places are working and existing not according to the law and not according to what her guidance would say.
Lots of places will not have implemented
so
the
NHS,
judgment.
councils, even the Cabinet Office is known to have not been not have their lavatories and bathrooms according to what her guidance would say. So yeah, it seems like she's fed up, and I can understand why.
So one smells politics. What are the politics? What's going on in the Labour Party, do you think, that has stopped the government?
Well, there you go. That is exactly it, isn't it? Baroness Faulkner has said it, and it feels clear, is that the Labour Party is worried about some within its ranks basically kicking off about what they don't like within the guidance. But the sad thing is, for them, they might not like it, but that is the guidance and that is the law. So they might kick off about it. The Labour Party might have a row on its hands, but it's something that they're not going to be able to get away from, because it is the law.
When you say it's the law, we're talking about the party that's in government. A government can propose legislation to the House of Commons and change the law.
Yes, they can. I think if they were to go... We're shaking heads here. I think if they were to go down that route, they'd have an almighty battle on their hands,
right,
bigger than just the row over the guidance itself.
So that can be ruled out?
Well, I mean, who knows at this rate, but I would be astonished if that was the fight that they wanted to pick.
You talked about benches. Can you give me a snippet? The people who maybe don't want the government to respond to the guidance, to implement the guidance, what kind of things are they saying?
I think the kind of things that they want to see is that total acceptance of the things that Stonewall have previously put out, that, a trans woman is a woman. You don't go...
Self-certification.
Yeah, you don't go into at all the sort of biological sex of it. It just is on identification. And that's the sort of thing that they would like to see. That's not the sort of thing that the Supreme Court ruled on back in April, I think it was now. And it's not the sort of thing that the guidance is going to be advocating for. So there was this awkward situation recently at a Parliament committee where a Tory MP, Rebecca Poole, kept asking Bridget Phillipson, I think she asked her 3 times, when is the guidance on... She specifically asked for schools, for gender questioning children. When is that going to be published so that schools can act in the way in which they should be acting? No answer. 3 times, no answer, because they're clearly not prepared to do what is going to need to be done.
Diana Hayter, apologies if you think that probably I should have asked someone representing the Labour Party on this safer today these questions first. But you tell me, what's going on in the Labour Party? Why do you think the response of the government to the guidance has not been forthcoming?
Well, first of all, can I just say, though, I'm a great fan of Baroness Faulkner. I think she's superb, and she's had a very rough time. She was bullied. I mean, it's an ethnic minority woman, head of the Commission. She was bullied, even though she had ovarian cancer.
By whom?
by staff at the EHRC. It was really, really rough. And she held her horses. I mean, she was doing what's right. You know, us women, 51% of the population, and she's trying to defend women. What's going on? First of all, both Keir Starmer and indeed Bridget Phillipson have said they accept and must implement now the ruling of the Supreme Court, and the Labour Party is doing it. It's made sure now our Women's Conference, I mean, it seems extraordinary that it was ever up for debate, but the Women's Conference is now for biological women. So the government and its leader have accepted, quite rightly, the Supreme Court ruling. And what worries me is that the delay, not just in the guidance, but actually the guidance that's up on the website at the moment is wrong, because it does suggest that people who identify as a woman can use woman's loos. I think the important thing that anyone watching needs to know is that that law is now in place. So if you are running a hotel, a restaurant, or anything else, if you do use you have men and women's things, they are for biological women or biological men, and that has to happen now.
You've spoken with such great clarity, and you've talked about defending the rights of women, but I suspect that what you've just said on that sofa would be highly controversial in parts of the Labour Party.
I don't think it would. I think that it's a change, because, you know, it was said for so long that this ruling, before the ruling, that this wasn't the case. And, the sort of people that put out stuff like Stonewall kept saying, no, gender means gender.
I remember the Prime Minister was awfully confused about
and therefore
what equipment the two genders had.
And therefore, we're not going to that today.
No, exactly.
It's a Sunday morning, please. And therefore, a lot of people, believe that. And what's very sad, I think, is that there are people, trans women, who've been, out as women for a long time, who've been using women's loos. But it was sort of done very quietly, and it was accepted. And they didn't try and do other things like play sports again, as a woman. And therefore, they've been accepted for a long time, sort of in a way discreetly, and none of us worried about it. And I'm very worried about that group that have now lost, if you like, their access. OK, maybe it was under the, it was a bit sort of... But they did it, and they were able to use loos. So I think a lot of people are worried about that group that without confronting, without trying to run races against us, without having tried to be boxers in the boxing ring, have actually lost some of their ability. It may not have been a right, but their ability to use women's loos.
Are you suggesting this is the reason for the delay?
I think that's... No, you asked why are some people in the Labour Party finding it difficult? And I think it's because for so long we were quite cool, if you like. We were quite accepting about people who identified as something other than the gender they were born with. And therefore, it's a bit of a surprise to find it isn't that, and that therefore we now have to think about having extra loos set up in, whether it's in offices or whatever, that we have. So
but you
that I think is the reason why there's discomfort about the new ruling.
See, I think the guidance would actually help a lot having that published, because what's going on right now is, I think Baroness Faulkner sort of referred to it as a grey zone, where biological women aren't necessarily comfortable in whatever situation they are, because some spaces aren't following what the law actually is and what they should be doing. And then trans women and trans men are finding it difficult because it's changing from, one venue to another, what they're experiencing.
It's truly inconsistent.
And right now, what would benefit everyone is just to actually know where we all stand, and that at least would make things easier for all these people going about their business. It's not particularly fair to throw one thing out in one place and one thing in another.
But anyone
do you not think that many Labour MPs believe in self-certification?
No.
You don't?
I think there are some.
Right.
There are undoubtedly
not enough to worry the government, not enough to deter the government from responding to the guidance.
No, and I'm sure that guidance will come out. They're obviously looking at it very hard. My understanding is there's a couple of tweaks that need a bit of finessing, but most of it will come out.
If that's the case, why couldn't Bridget Phillipson say that? Well, I'm very close to publishing. I've just got a couple of tweaks to go. Why couldn't she say that?
Well, she's more or less said that. She said they're working on it, and it will come out.
Has she not also said that she wants there to be an impact assessment, which would naturally, I think, delay things even?
No, I think that's been put around now. But I'm fairly sure it will appear fairly soon. Obviously, there's now a new chair of the EHRC, and no doubt she will want to at least have a look at it, because it's now going to come out as EHRC guidance. And the new chair only started, I think, on Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Less than a week ago. So I think she needs to just know what guidance she's going to have to go on television defending. So I think, let's have a couple of weeks for her to get in and see the guidance herself, because she's got to have time.
Telly, you're around Parliament all the time. Do you accept what Diane says, that really there's a very tiny number of Labour MPs who would still believe in self-certification?
I think you're hoping for the best, but I think potentially you may end up disappointed in the number of MPs who would feel uncomfortable. Number of Labour MPs who would feel uncomfortable about this. I think you're right in the sense that the tide has definitely shifted along. The movement is quite great from a time where Keir couldn't actually say whether a woman or not was a certain way. So there has been a lot of change, but there are still a number, no doubt about it, on the backbenches who would be uncomfortable. The sort of Green-esque, soft left Labour types who still want to see something like identification.
But once the guidance is out, we get on with it, I think it'll just settle down.
You seem to be voting for the guidance to be out. A Labour source said, after more than a decade of women and girls being badly let down, it's this Labour government that is delivering a comprehensive strategy to tackle violence against them, delivering on their priorities and ensuring women have more opportunity to lead the lives that they choose. A government spokesman said, we're unapologetic about taking the time to produce legally sound guidance that will guide businesses and organisations and ensure that they have safety and dignity that they deserve. The alternative, issuing rushed and flawed guidance, will be utterly catastrophic and fail women across our country, end of quote. Thank you very much, Telly Fraser and Diane Hayter. Lovely to have you both back. Moving on, this Christmas we're putting on a really exciting event and we want lots of you to be there. On Saturday the 13th of December, you are invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply for tickets by scanning the QR code on the screen right now, or by going to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be broadcast on Christmas Eve. How lovely. Coming up, graffiti artist Endless has unveiled a new mural starring Hollywood actor Luke Evans. Endless will join me next, appearing for the first time unmasked. And coming up, this is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Just went for an insurance check. In our business, you have to have a check before you do any new program, so you don't drop down dead on the program. And it was all very relaxed, as always, chatting with the doctor and all that. And then he phoned me up the next day and said, well, it's slightly worrying. Your PSA is a bit high. I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, it measures the levels of the potential antigens for prostate cancer that you've got. He said, you'll have to go to a specialist. I went to the specialist and he said, yes, you have got very early stages of the indications of prostate cancer. And of course, it felt like my life had collapsed immediately. I was writing the will, I was doing everything. Well, the reality is he was quite cheery about it. He said, look, you're likely to die with this. You're not going to die of it, provided that we keep an eye on it all the time, make sure it doesn't flare up. And so ever since then, what I thought was going to be this terrible thing 12 years ago, all it means is that every 4 or 6 months, I have to get a check. That's all. But the good news is, and I've been listening to you for the last 20 minutes thinking, oh my God, what a terrible world we're living in. Everything's wrong. I have a great Christmas message for you. Hold on to your seats. If you want to have a check for prostate cancer, you no longer have to have a finger up your bum. Yes! Isn't that the best thing you've heard all day?
Well, that is, but it's funny that we laugh about it, and so we should really, but that is the big obstacle, isn't it? It's the one thing that puts people off.
Yeah, well, it's gone. It's floated away. Those fingers have floated up to the heavens. All you need to do now is have one of those tiny little blood tests, you know, pinprick in your arm, and they go away and check it and make sure you're all right.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Mike Portillo. Graffiti artist Endless has unveiled a new mural starring the Hollywood actor Luke Evans. The mural, located in Brighton, aims to deliver the powerful message, creativity matters. Now, Endless normally looks like this. He regularly appears with a snood, but today, for the first time on television, he appears snoodless, unmasked, out of disguise. How lovely to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
We talk of you as a graffiti artist, but the thing we're talking about now, this immense mural that you've done in Brighton, it is obviously not graffiti. I mean, there's publicity around it, everyone's looking forward to it. So, may I just ask you, does a graffiti artist nowadays have to get things like planning permission and all of that sort of thing?
I don't consider myself a graffiti artist.
No, well, that's what I was coming to.
I consider myself a contemporary artist.
Yes.
And I did start on the street doing illegal stuff in London, and that's how I got picked up by galleries, and it kind of snowballed. And then for this kind of mural, there's permission, there's all sorts of stuff. It's not what it seems.
So you've moved into the establishment, have you?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm my own establishment.
Tell me about your relationship with fashion. Are you allied with fashion? Are you critical of fashion? Are you making fun of fashion sometimes? What's your relationship with fashion?
I'm not critical of anything.
Oh, really?
It's more of a mirror on real life, like how I see it and how it comes across. And with fashion, I've always looked at kind of billboards, advertising, and how they kind of manipulate your mind and make you buy things.
Right.
Similar to art, so I kind of twisted it, took fashion icons such as Karl Lagerfeld and made him into a god in one of my works. It's like a comment on how we see the world through media.
So you're not afraid of the word comment, but you're not saying you're critical?
I guess if you think it's critical, it can be for you. But for me, it's something else as I make it.
You've talked about, well, I talked about you coming into the establishment. You talked about being in galleries. For instance, you've been at the Venice Biennale, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell me about the piece you did for that and how that commission came about, because for some reason you were linked to San Marino, so I didn't quite understand.
San Marino is its own country, its own place within Italy. And I have a gallery called Chris Contini Contemporary that I work with, who are an Italian-based gallery. And they got me involved with San Marino. They liked my work, and we came up with a project. And it became the first street art within the establishment of the Venice Biennale. The first time.
What kind of a piece was that?
It was a wooden structure inside a palace, huge, and then the visual artwork was pasted onto it like I do on the street. It's kind of like digital and paint, and then pasted onto the wood.
And you are now in the great Uffizi Gallery of Florence, aren't you?
Again, that was the first.
Along with, kind of Leonardo da Vinci and Botticelli.
That was the first street art, again, within that establishment. So we're kind of breaking moulds within Italy and all the establishments there.
How have you been so successful? How have you been so broadly accepted? What is it you think that you bring to art that has enabled you to crash through these barriers?
a different perspective maybe, and I'm not trying to be a street artist or contemporary artist. I'm just trying to do my work and stay in my own lane. And I think maybe these days people try and be something because of social media, because art has become a business, whereas I'm trying to stay in a different lane and make my own way.
Let's talk about the mural in Brighton. Why did you choose Brighton? You've done a lot of work in Brighton, I think.
Yeah, this one is huge. It's on a massive wall, and it's on the side of Indelible Fine Art, which is a gallery there that has some of my work. And yeah, we got permission on that wall, so it was like a no-brainer, huge. And it's nice to do things in that scale, because when you're working in your studio on canvases, it's one thing, and I like to work big. But when you see something monumental, it kind of takes your whole vision, and you become part of the work as you're looking at it.
Yeah, I've seen that many artists are attractive to huge works. So you featured Luke Evans because he's someone you've got to know in part.
Yeah.
I mean, you know lots of people. Why did you choose Luke Evans?
I met Luke at an exhibition, an opening of an exhibition by Gilbert and George. And I found out he loves art. And I knew he was an actor, but I didn't know he was so passionate about creativity. And he has his own fashion brand as well. So he's like an all-round creative thinker. And I wanted this piece to speak to people and give them passion and say, you can all be creative in your own way. And Luke was the perfect kind of figure for that artwork. I don't really do artwork for the sake of a celebrity, but if I meet someone and I think what they have inside works with the artwork that I want to make, it's a perfect blend.
I mean, creativity is largely about hard work. I mean, obviously it's about talent. It's about natural ability, but it's largely about hard work, isn't it? Is that one of the things you admire about Luke Evans?
Oh, yeah. He's obviously come from nothing and built himself up as an actor, just constantly working. But also he's interested in everything, like art, like fashion, and that's what he's doing now.
And what does creativity bring to our life? Why do you say creativity matters? Does it matter almost more than anything else, do you think?
Well, as a human species, we're remembered by what we create. Like you are now creating a TV show, it can be anything. And that's humans create, and then that gets left in the world.
Yes. And I mean, you're making this statement. Do you think it's something we're neglecting? Do you think people undervalue creativity? I mean, I personally am in love with the arts. So if you tell me creativity matters, I might almost complete the sentence by saying creativity matters more than almost anything else.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm on the same page with you there.
Yeah, but people that aren't on the same page, it's only because they haven't thought about it. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't know about art. I don't know. But you walk down the street, you see a billboard, you read a magazine, there's art involved in everything. So everyone knows about art. They're just scared maybe of the words.
Luke Evans came from nothing. Did you?
I came from everyone comes from something, but
did you come from a position of non-advantage, put it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I went to school, I left school at 16, went to college. I knew I wanted to do art, went to university, but you have to make it happen. I mean, even if you come from a privileged background, you still have to make it happen.
Would you mind holding this book, because it's too heavy for me? Just hold it like that. And tell me two things. Firstly, this book is available, I guess, but why do you generally appear in a snood?
Originally, it's like a bandana. So originally I wore it. I was doing illegal work on the street, and obviously you don't want to show your face too much.
Right.
And I liked the idea, as it went on, of not showing my face and it being about the artwork. And I was speaking through the art and not necessarily my face. And as you know, with like Facebook, Instagram, whatever, your face becomes the product, and I wanted the art to become the product. But now I'm on your show, I'm a product.
You've been completely revealed, and it's been a great privilege to reveal you today. And those who want to see your work, they need to pop down to Brighton. I think it's being finished tomorrow, is it?
It's already finished, it's up on the wall. But the way the artwork's made, it won't last forever. So go down and see it. It will be a few months, it will be up.
Oh, OK, that's a very good tip. Thank you very much indeed. Endless.
Thank you.
Paddington, the musical, has padded into the West End. Stefan Keriasis will be here to give us his review of that and of a hip-hop version of Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. But first, your latest news headlines from Bethany Elsey.
Mike, Michael, thank you. The headlines at 12:30. The man has been arrested after a number of people were attacked with a form of pepper spray at a multi-storey car park at Heathrow Airport. 21 people were injured, with 5 of them taken to hospital. The Met Police says the incident has been contained. Thousands of guaranteed jobs in construction and hospitality are to be offered to young people on benefits in the spring. It's part of an £800 million government plan to tackle youth unemployment. The Prime Minister says his former deputy, Angela Rayner, will return to his cabinet. In an interview with The Observer, Sir Keir Starmer said misogyny had played a part in the level of criticism she faced over her tax affairs. And the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning from tomorrow evening, as more than half a month's rainfall could hit the UK within a 24-hour period. You're up to date. More for you at 1 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Do have those raincoats on hand if you do plan on stepping outside today. Low pressure is increasingly in charge once again, and it's pushing all weather fronts northeastwards across the UK as we head throughout the day. These have already been providing some outbreaks of rain, generally fairly light and intermittent across parts of England and Wales. The heaviest pulses are likely to be for Northern Ireland initially, and those eventually spreading into central and southern Scotland. There is a rain warning in force today for Northern Ireland, so some minor disruption is possible and quite difficult travelling conditions around at times. As that rain band continues to sweep across mainland Scotland, it's going to be a pretty soggy end to the day here. The Northern Isles managing to hold off until a little later on in the evening, but underneath that persistent cloud and rain, it is going to feel quite cool, if not locally chilly. But behind that, we are starting to filter in some slightly milder air, so where skies begin to brighten or clear up later on in the day, we could see highs around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius. It is, though, still going to be breezy across much of England and Wales, and that will temper the feel of things a touch. Our rain band then heading up towards Orkney and Shetlands later on this evening, but we've got another wave of showers that will push their way in from the west. These could be quite squally and heavy, but also bring some hail and thunderstorms as well. Quite a mild night overall, some areas staying up in double-digit figures, a little chillier where we see skies clear across north-eastern Scotland, but that rain band will push its way northeastwards again into the start of Monday morning. There will be some sunnier spells around on Monday in general, particularly across parts of England and Wales, but those showers will continue out towards the north and the west, and the cloud will eventually push into central southern areas of England and Wales a little later on in the day. Temperatures around 8 to 14 degrees Celsius. Do be aware, though, that we will return to very wet and windy conditions Monday night into Tuesday with our next area of low pressure that arrives, and that could bring further disruption, so do stay up to date.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Mike Portillo. Stefan Kyriazis may have been eating marmalade sandwiches this week. He rejoins me now to tell me whether Paddington the musical is sweet and to his taste, or perhaps just plain crummy. And you're accompanied by Rafa in a very festive red jumper.
And a little bit bedraggled from the weather. Paddington. So this is probably the biggest opening of the year. They've been teasing it, building it up, interviews everywhere. Tom Fletcher was on Strictly over the weekend with Paddington, so I advise people to do that on Catch Up if they can. This is Michael Bond's beloved bear. He's had tea with the Queen. He's a national treasure. And I have to say, they've done him proud.
Oh,
they've
really?
Really done him proud.
That is a relief to hear.
Yeah, it is massive. And I've interviewed the director and Tom Fletcher, who wrote all the music, and Bonnie Langford, who's hoofing away in it as well. And everybody said that, like, Tom and the director and the people, they've been working on it for 5 years. And the main thing they felt was responsibility. They felt so much pressure not to mess this up, to give everybody the Paddington that they love. And Bonnie told me that when he first comes on, she hides in the wings to watch it because it's like a rock star, and it is. The crowd's part, and he stood there at Paddington Station. Everybody oohs, sighs, there's a few tears. And this is the adults especially. Kids just love it because it's fun. The adults, it's so emotional.
Yes.
It's brilliant. It's basically the origin story, and we've got a little trailer here just to get you a bit in the mood.
Dear Aunt Lucy,
All change at Paddington.
I'm in London.
That's a real teaser.
That was a teaser.
That's a terrible teaser. There is footage now of him as well. It's Artie Shah, a small actress who's in the suit, and then James Hamid is providing the voice and doing the facial expressions. And it really, you pretty immediately forget. He meets up with the Brown family, as in the original stories, goes back to their house, and then completely destroys everything. So from the start, the energy's really high. This really big song called Don't Touch That. Incredible sets of the whole house, staircases, the bath comes through the ceiling. It's absolutely spectacular. And it's got so much energy, but it's also, it is really going back to the core of kindness, family, love, acceptance. Paddington's an outsider. Everybody is a little bit fractured in the family and also in the neighbourhood. Everybody comes together. It's a beautiful thing. It's really, really moving.
Is this thing going to run for decades?
It's going to run for a long time. It's booking very heavily into next year, till next October. It's at the Savoy Theatre. People are already saying it's very hard to get tickets. I would say beg, steal or borrow. It's spectacular. The music is so good. There's a song called Marmalade, and it reminded me of, well, not reminded me, more of you, of music hall days.
Absolutely
back
outrageous.
in Victorian times. But it's got this catchy, the chorus kind of goes, Mama, 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 Marmalade, and, oh, yes, you're joining in. And the whole audience, by the second chorus, and Tom Eden, who's my friend, is playing the very misanthropic neighbour who gets converted, and they're conducting the audience, and we're all singing along to the song. It's that kind of show.
Yeah.
Production values are through the roof.
Well, I was kind of going to repeat my question. They've spent so much on it, presumably, that they are thinking that this is going to be one of these things that sits in the West End for a very long time.
But I've seen plenty of shows where they've spent an absolute fortune, and it's a clunker. This one, the money's right there in front of you, but also the performances are fantastic. Paddington's gorgeous, music is sensational, and you leave on such a high. And you also leave feeling a little bit better about yourself and the world, which is a wonderful thing, and others. I just think it's the most beautiful, perfect show. I'm really thrilled that it's worked out as well as it has.
This sounds like 5 stars.
A massive 5 stars for me.
And the other critics were with you, weren't they?
Yes, across the board, left, right, centre, everything. A whole raft of 5 stars, which is wonderful. It's irresistible. You can't, whatever your feelings about musicals, schmaltz, feel good, whatever, you can't resist. It just absolutely bowls you over.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, not everything would have been as good as that this week.
No, but we go from very, very big to quite small. The Menier Chocolate Factory, which is a tiny little theatre in South London. And I'm forever going on now about small theatres.
Yes,
I want people to go to small theatres. Give it a go, try all these ones. But this is Noel Coward's Fallen Angels. 1925 play, outraged the people at the time. This is 2 very smart, sort of middle-aged women freely discussing premarital sex, which at the time was shocking. But even more so, they're both contentedly married, but fabulously tell their husbands that the passion's gone, but that's fine. We'll just be sort of congenial friends now. It's all very pleasant. But when they get together, they both had an affair with a French Lothario years ago in Italy, both of them separately. He's sent them both postcards. He's hopping the channel. The frog is coming. And the 2 of them are up for it. And they are discussing having affairs. And they're very much, the joke is that they're acting like men. So they're very much, they're like, whoa, you know, we're going to have a naughty time with this man. And that in 1925 was probably a little bit shocking. So you can see from the pictures, it's all very prim and proper. Set is gorgeous. It reminds me of the Poirot sets on TV. It's those sort of...
Gorgeous costumes too.
Mansion flats, that sort of period. Yeah, it's all period perfect. And of course, these ladies, Jane and Julia, who are played by Janie Dee, great West End star, and Alexander Gilbraith, who's also West End star and TV star. And then they're joined, there's another actress called Sarah Twomey who plays the maid, and she's the running joke all the way through that she knows more about anything than anyone else. A virtuoso piano player, operatic singer, all three get a chance to sing. It's basically a farce. The husbands are just priggish Brits, completely oblivious. They head off for golf, not knowing that the frog is coming and their wives have plans. And then it all just descends and goes...
Are you referring to the French gentleman?
Yes, the French.
Yes, okay.
Le Frog is coming. It's huge fun. They're all masters of this type of medium. It's very, very well done. It's a period piece. I mean, they're trying to make it sort of peppy and snappy.
I feel I need to read about it now, because I didn't realise that he'd written anything quite as risque as that.
It's one of his earlier shows, but one of his less well-known shows. They tried blocking it, but I think the Lord Chamberlain got it through. But yes, well worth seeing, but it's very much a period piece, but it's a lovely nostalgia piece. So I like that one.
We've just got time to think about a new take on A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, and we've got a little trailer of that one as well.
Let's have a look. So for those who are listening on the radio, it's called Ebony Scrooge.
Yes. And this one's on at Sadler's Wells East. So the very prestigious Sadler's Wells Dance Company and the various theatres. New outpost in the Olympic Park out at Stratford. Stunning purpose-built theatre. It really is fantastic. It's a gorgeous venue, and it's been said repeatedly by lots of people who've been there, it's bringing in a different crowd, which is really fantastic. It is really bringing in a lot of the sort of Far East crowd and out that side. So it's not your typical sort of London theatre goers. And that's wonderful, and the energy there is wonderful. I love this company. It's Zoo Nation. They did Message in a Bottle, which I've raved about, and last year's
which I raved about as well. It's marvellous.
And Mad Hatter's Tea Party last year, where they reworked Alice in Wonderland. Kate Prince is the creator, founder and main choreographer of the company and those shows. This time there's a different choreographer, Danielle Rhymes-Lequan, and she's very much local to East London. The company is hip-hop, street dance, funk with kind of balletic flair and lines as well. It's beautiful. She's a great choreographer. I'm not convinced she's a great storyteller. So they've reworked Christmas Carol, and we have Ebony Scrooge, who is a black female fashion designer, but only works in monochrome. It's a little bit heavy-handed. She's lost the joy of colour. And the whole motto of the show is a little bit like, you know, we have to all learn to see colour. And I just thought that was a bit clunky. But also, Christmas Carol is so emotional. It's so about redemption. It's about a lost character that finds their way back to humanity, to family, to compassion, to redemption. And I just didn't really get that from this. It's tons and tons of really incredible set pieces of dancing, but it's just one sort of big, incredible choreographed piece after another, but I didn't get any real story from it. So for me, it's a spectacle, but I think given what the material they had to work with it was a little bit underwhelming and I was a bit disappointed. Still worth seeing, and I really encourage people, again, try different theatres. Don't just go to the big West End shows.
Let's pop out to the East. That was a really good review, Stefan. You are a great reviewer. I really enjoyed that very much indeed.
Did you hear that, Rafa?
Thank you, Rafa. Thank you, Stefan. Now, coming up, 4 countries have boycotted the Eurovision Song Contest after the participating broadcasters voted for Israel to remain in the competition. Have politics effectively destroyed Eurovision? Expert on the contest, Dr. Paul Jordan, will join me. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's still pretty unsettled in the eastern Mediterranean over the next few days. There will be some heavy showers and thunderstorms around too. But across Iberia and actually most of the Canary Islands and Madeira, it's largely fine, and there'll be plenty of sunshine on Monday. Just a few showers for northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal. Sunny for most of Italy too, but we run into more in the way of showers and stronger winds pushing down across parts of Greece and into Turkey. But overall, over the next few days, there's lots of sunshine to be enjoyed, and it will feel fairly warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I think after the first incident, obviously, I became hyper aware of how men can behave in London. But since sharing my story in February, I've had hundreds of women come forward and tell me their stories. It was actually so overwhelming, the amount of people that reached out to me and said, thank you for sharing your story, thank you for talking about it, because this had happened to me and that had happened to me. And I think also because I became aware of it, I don't know whether I started to see it, whether it was rising, but what I do know is that the amount of incidents happening are not the amount of incidents being reported.
One of the controversial issues, Genevieve, here in America is that in certain states, President Trump has put the National Guard on the streets. They have it here in Washington, D.C., and these are kind of volunteer soldiers, if you like. You can see some pictures here, so that's me there with them, and that's Ben Leo, our other host, and you just have groups of them. They're in groups of sort of 3, 4, 5 sometimes on the street corners. We were coming back from a football match, I've been here too long, that evening, and you feel safe because they are a very clear presence on the street. Do you think we should have something similar in London?
Yeah, I mean, if there were repercussions and men thought that they were going to be caught and that there were going to be witnesses and that they were going to be held accountable, that would decrease the rate of these kind of attacks happening, because you're going to weigh up whether it's worth it, aren't you, as a
of course
person.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The Netherlands, Spain, Ireland and Slovenia have boycotted the Eurovision Song Contest after Israel won the vote to remain a participant. Israel's President Isaac Herzog posted on X following the announcement, "Israel deserves to be represented on every stage around the world, a cause to which I am fully and actively committed." Well, joining me now is Dr. Paul Jordan, who's an expert on Eurovision and a media commentator. Paul, thank you very much for joining me. How did Eurovision get into this ghastly situation?
Good afternoon, Michael. And yes, I think you're right to call it ghastly. It's a bit of a mess, to say the least. And I think Eurovision has got into this because they've not really acknowledged that politics comes into international events. The organisers don't want it to, but it does with the World Cup, with the Olympic Games. Remember Beijing in 2008 and the Qatar World Cup. And they've kind of kicked this issue down the road. They've kicked the can down the road, hoping it will go away, and it just hasn't. And they've not handled it very well.
Oh, well, what was their alternative? Because, I mean, obviously, some people believe that Israel has every right to be there, and some people object to it because of what its government has done. So what was the alternative? What could Eurovision have done differently and better, in your view?
I think they could have communicated better about the reasons why Israel are in still and why Russia were kicked out. The two are different issues, but they didn't explain that very well to the public. So Eurovision is a competition between broadcasters, and the Russian broadcaster technically broke the Eurovision rules by broadcasting Russian propaganda. The Israeli broadcaster hasn't broken the rules, and there's also an added complexity here about public service media within Israel and even democracy. So the Israeli government want to be a part of Eurovision, but they also need the broadcaster, so that's their ticket to Eurovision. But the broadcaster, to make things even more complicated, are often critical of the government and hold them to account, as they should, as a public service broadcaster. So if they suppress the broadcaster, they lose their ticket to Eurovision. So in a sense, it's a good thing that Israel are there, but it's a really complicated issue, and it's one that unfortunately has really become quite poisonous when it comes to Eurovision itself.
When we say that 4 countries have pulled out, do we mean that their broadcasters independently have made a decision to pull out, or do we mean that their governments have decided that they should pull out?
Well, this is the question, and there is obviously a lot of pressure on broadcasters, you know, in terms of public opinion. I certainly think in Ireland there is public opinion to withdraw from the competition. However, it's not kind of very clear about what this means for the future of the event. You know, is it just next year? What about the year after? And I think there is a certain amount of virtue signalling going on, particularly with some of the performers who performed in 2024 knowing Israel was going to be there, 2025 when the war was in, you know, full-scale war, and yet somehow they turned a blind eye to that, and yet, you know, they're now saying they should withdraw and boycott. Who knows how long they'll be out, but it looks like Israel's not going away anytime soon. So let's see what the kind of next year or two brings. But it certainly looks like a quite stressful time for the organisers.
There was talk that in Israel there had been manipulation of the public vote. Was there, and is that relevant?
It's probably not for me to comment on whether there was or not. It certainly looked interesting that Israel won the public vote last year, but then they did have a very good song. I think the issue came when there was a lot of marketing taking place by the Israeli government, by Israeli embassies, and I think it worked to a certain extent because I spoke to people who voted 20 times for Israel within the rules, but they didn't even watch the song contest. They had the number passed around on WhatsApp, so that's not in the spirit of the competition. They have tightened up those rules. They've allowed the juries to return for the semi-finals. They've put clamps down on the marketing for these songs online, as well as reducing the number of public votes. Whether that'll make a difference, who knows? But as I say, Israel did indeed have a good song. And I think the whole thing is just very, very sad. As I say, I've got friends who have fallen out over this. The slogan is united by music, but unfortunately we're divided by global politics.
Do you think this is a fatal blow to Eurovision?
I don't think so. I think it will ride this storm. It's been through issues in the past. And I think Eurovision is very special. We've all grown up with it now. Next year is the 70th contest. And I think it would be a great shame if it does overshadow the event. It's the one thing where, in theory, countries put aside their differences. The UK and Ireland did in the 70s, for example. Greece and Turkey did. And they enjoy that singing jamboree. I think it will survive, but I think there are going to be questions about the long-term funding, because Spain is a big backer, also a big audience member as well. And that could also have an implication on sponsorship of the event moving forward.
One of the difficulties is that many governments in the past have felt they could use, for example, sporting events to express political disapproval. We mentioned Russia a moment ago. And despite the very clear distinction that you made to me just now, many people think, oh, well, if you can get athletes to boycott the Olympics, you can get countries to boycott Eurovision.
I can understand that argument, and I understand that people are obviously horrified about what's unfolded in Gaza. It's incredibly complicated, but it's also not the singer's fault. You know, the singer for the Israeli entry last year was actually, or this year, was actually a victim of the 7th of October attacks. She's not responsible for the actions of her government, just like neither is the UK performer responsible for the actions of either Labour or Conservative governments in the past.
Thank you very much, Paul Jordan. Most interesting. I'd like to thank not only Paul Jordan, but actually all my guests today. It's been a pleasure to share your company for the last 2 hours. I'll be back at the same time next week. But next up on GB News, it is Dawn Neeson with The Weekend. Dawn, What's coming up on your
I
show?
love the way you do that. It's the highlight of my week. Thank you very much, Michael. Great show, as always. And we hopefully have a great show for you as well, including Keir Starmer picking yet another fight with Nigel Farage, a shock report on that child benefit cap. You really don't want to miss it. Some of the figures we're uncovering this are, well, they'll curl your hair, that's for sure. And also, we are talking about Christmas Jumper Day. Oh gosh, no, sorry, we can't call it Christmas Jumper Day. It is officially Winter Jumper Day, and you can't have Christmas lunch either. All of that to come very soon. After the weather, I'll see you then.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Do have those raincoats on hand if you do plan on stepping outside today. Low pressure is increasingly in charge once again, and it's pushing weather fronts northeastwards across the UK as we head throughout the day. These have already been providing some outbreaks of rain, generally fairly light and intermittent across parts of England and Wales. The heaviest pulses are likely to be for Northern Ireland initially, and those eventually spreading into central and southern Scotland. There is a rain warning in force today for Northern Ireland, so some minor disruption is possible and quite difficult travelling conditions around at times. As that rain band continues to sweep across mainland Scotland, it's going to be a pretty soggy end to the day here. The Northern Isles managing to hold off until a little later on in the evening, but underneath that persistent cloud and rain, it is going to feel quite cool, if not locally chilly. But behind that, we are starting to filter in some slightly milder air, so where skies begin to brighten or clear up later on in the day, we could see highs around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius. It is, though, still going to be breezy across much of England and Wales, and that will temper the feel of things a touch. Our rain band then heading up towards Orkney and Shetlands later on this evening, but we've got another wave of showers that will push their way in from the west. These could be quite squally and heavy, but also bring some hail and thunderstorms as well. Quite a mild night overall, some areas staying up in double-digit figures. A little chillier where we see skies clear across northeastern Scotland, but that rain band will push its way northeastwards again into the start of Monday morning. There will be some sunnier spells around on Monday in general, particularly across parts of England and Wales, but those showers will continue out towards the north and the west, and the cloud will eventually push into central southern areas of England and Wales a little later on in the day. Temperatures around 8 to 14 degrees Celsius. Do be aware, though, that we will return to very wet and windy conditions Monday night into Tuesday with our next area of low pressure that arrives, and that could bring further disruption, so do stay up to date.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with, each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 32